Started with the perfume. Not the one she usually wore. The soft vanilla scent I'd bought her for our anniversary. But something sharper, floral, expensive. The kind of scent someone wears when they want to be noticed. She stood by the mirror, slipping in a pair of gold earrings I hadn't seen before. Her lips painted deep crimson. "Going somewhere?" I asked, trying to sound casual as I leaned against the doorway. She smiled too quickly. "Yeah, dinner with a friend. You don't mind, do you?" A friend. The word hung between us like smoke. She reached for her purse, checking her phone twice before tucking it away. I caught the faint tremor in her hands. It wasn't much, but I'd known Emma for 11 years. I knew that tremor. It was the same one she had when she lied to her mother about quitting smoking years ago, or when she told me she hadn't seen my messages but had clearly left me on read. Something inside me, a quiet, gnawing instinct, stirred awake. "No, of course not," I said, forcing a smile. "Which friend?" She paused just a second too long. "Sophie," she said finally, grabbing her coat. "Sophie." The same Sophie who'd moved to Boston 3 months ago. She kissed my cheek, barely a brush of her lips, and walked out the door. The faint click of her heels echoed down the hallway, fading into the night. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the door, feeling something cold settle in my chest. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But there's a certain tone a person's voice takes when they're weaving a lie, a certain emptiness in the eyes that only love can notice. So I did something I never thought I'd do in my marriage. Followed her. Her car pulled out of the driveway around 7:40. I waited 2 minutes before grabbing my keys and starting my own. My hands were sweating, my heart beating too fast. The rational part of my brain screamed at me to stop, to trust her. But the quieter, wounded part whispered, "You already know the truth, don't you?" She drove across town, past the old bookstore we used to visit, past the park where we'd once walked hand in hand in the early years. I kept a careful distance, headlights dimmed. Finally, she turned into the parking lot of a small Italian restaurant, a place that was far too intimate for friends. I parked a few spots away, watching her step out of the car. She checked her reflection in the window, then smiled, one of those nervous, anticipatory smiles I hadn't seen directed at me in months. And then he appeared. Clean-shaven, wearing a charcoal blazer. He greeted her with a hug that lingered too long, his hand sliding briefly down her back. My stomach twisted. I watched them walk inside together, her hand brushing his arm. For a moment my mind went blank. The world around me blurred, the sound of traffic, the glow of neon signs, everything. Then came the anger. Not the loud, explosive kind. No, this was quieter, heavier, like the slow crack of ice under weight. I sat there for almost 20 minutes before I finally got out of the car. I told myself I just wanted to see, to confirm what I already knew. Maybe they were old friends catching up. Maybe I was overreacting. But deep down I knew. Inside, the restaurant was dimly lit, candles flickering on every table. I scanned the room, heart pounding in my throat. Then I saw them. They were in a corner booth, sitting close. Her hand rested near his on the table, fingers almost touching. She laughed at something he said. A laugh that used to belong to me. Froze. He reached across the table, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. She didn't pull away. She smiled. My chest tightened. Every breath felt heavier. For a moment I just stood there, watching the woman I thought I knew share pieces of herself with someone else. The smile, the look, the warmth. Things that once felt like ours. I wanted to storm over, to demand an explanation. But instead I turned and left. Because in that instant, watching her like that, I realized something brutal. Confrontation wouldn't give me back what I'd already lost. I drove aimlessly for hours after that. The city blurred by, lights streaking across the windshield like ghosts. Every memory of our marriage replayed in my head. Our first apartment, the late-night talks, the quiet mornings with coffee and laughter. When had it all started to fade? Maybe it was when I got the promotion and started working late. Maybe it was when we lost the baby, and the silence between us became too heavy to fill. We stopped talking, stopped touching. And in that distance, someone else found room to walk in. Still, betrayal doesn't justify itself. Love isn't supposed to be conditional. When I got home, the house felt colder. I sat on the couch, staring at her favorite mug on the table, the one that said, "Love you more." The irony stung. At 10:45, I heard the key turn in the lock. I didn't move. She walked in quietly, kicking off her heels. "Hey," she said softly, surprised to see me awake. "Dinner went late?" I asked, eyes fixed on the TV that wasn't on. "Yeah," she said too quickly. "Sophie wanted to catch up. You know how she gets." I turned to look at her. "Sophie's in Boston." The color drained from her face. For a moment she said nothing, just stood there, caught in the unraveling of her lie. Then she looked down, her voice barely a whisper. "I didn't want to hurt you, Daniel." "Hurt me?" My voice cracked. "Emma, you destroyed me." Tears welled in her eyes. "It wasn't supposed to happen. He's someone I met at work, we started talking and I—" "Don't," I interrupted. "Please don't make excuses." She took a step forward. "It's not what you think." "I saw you," I said flatly. Her breath hitched. For a moment, silence filled the room, thick and suffocating. She sat down, trembling. "I never meant for it to go this far. I just felt lonely." We stopped talking. "You were always working. I thought you didn't see me anymore." I stared at her, feeling something fracture inside me. "So you found someone who did." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I'm sorry. I swear it wasn't about love, it was just attention. Feeling wanted." I wanted to scream, to curse, to break something. But instead I felt only exhaustion. The kind that seeps into your bones and won't let go. "Do you love him?" I asked quietly. She hesitated, and that hesitation was enough. I stood up. "You know, for months I thought I was losing my mind. I blamed myself for everything. Your distance, your silence. I thought maybe I wasn't enough. But it wasn't me, was it? You'd already checked out." Her sobs broke the air. "Please, Daniel, don't give up on us. We can fix this. I'll end it, I swear." I looked at her. The woman I'd built a life with, the woman I thought I knew, and felt only emptiness. "Some things," I said softly, "don't get fixed. They just end." The next few days passed like a fog. She tried. Texts, calls, apologies written on scraps of paper left around the house. But once trust is broken, words start to sound hollow, no matter how desperate they are. I moved out a week later. The night I left, she stood in the doorway, tears glistening in her eyes. "You're really leaving?" He nodded. "I already did. The night you walked out that door." She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Goodbye, Emma." As I walked down the steps, I heard her whisper something, so quiet I almost missed it. "I still love you." Maybe she did. Maybe a part of her always would. But love, once betrayed, rarely finds its way back intact. Months later, I drove past that same restaurant. The lights were on, the same flicker of candles behind the glass. For a moment, I considered stopping, walking in, confronting the ghost of that night. Instead, I kept driving. Because some nights aren't meant to be revisited. They're meant to remind us how far we've come from who we were. I've learned that betrayal doesn't always end with anger. Sometimes it ends with silence, with a tired heart that simply lets go. And though I'll never forget the sound of her lie, or the way it broke something inside me, I've also learned this. You can survive being broken. You can even learn to breathe again.